Ain't even like that. Just trying to match my swag. 'Cause I'm so cold. Ain't even like that. Just trying to match my swag. 'Cause I'm so cold.
Okay. Aburua Boye Bashishe, greetings. This is Iyanifa Ifaronke Efuntade, and welcome to Ose IFA, where today we celebrate Ifa for Ose according to the Ifa calendar. So we're going to go ahead and start with a few prayers, a lot of prayers than normal, than Ose, and then we're going to go into our lesson. Okay. So today is Ose Ifa, and today I want to talk about traditions. And Ifa is a lot of things that we do traditionally that has been passed down by the ancestors, that has been taught by the ancestors through certain odus, through certain rituals that we do to keep Ifa alive. Before, our ancestors really didn't have things written down like we do now. You know, luckily with technology, everything is as easy accessible to us, especially with those who are initiated. We can write a lot of things down to keep on our persons when we need to go back to certain things. Other than that, a lot of the traditions and rituals were supposed to be remembered because they were orally passed down. So can you imagine the memory of our ancestors with remembering certain things when it comes to ceremonial rites and ceremonial days? But those things happened, all the prayers and stuff that they had to remember and what they had to do traditionally. So let's go ahead and define tradition according to Webster. So tradition is an inherited, established, or customary pattern of thought, action, or behavior, such as religious practice or social custom. A belief or a story or a body of beliefs or stories relating to the past that are commonly accepted as historical, though not verifiable. And I think it's crazy that they said it's not verifiable because a lot of things that are custom to certain traditions and cultures, certain people that are not a part of that culture cannot verify it. So all they could do is go by hearsay, right? But it's none of their business. Tradition is also described as the handing down of information, beliefs, and customs by word of mouth or by explaining from one generation to another without written instruction. There goes the oral traditions right there. Cultural community and social attitudes, customs, and institutions. Characteristic manner, method, or style. Okay. So we know that tradition is a belief, a principle, or a way of acting that people in a particular society or group have continued to follow for a long time with all these beliefs. Okay. So in venereal philosophy, tradition means divinely ordained truths or principles that have been communicated to all humanity, as well as an entire cosmic sector through variations figures such as messengers, prophets, avatars, logos they have here, which is the written word like the Bible, or other transmitting agencies. The purpose of these sacred truths or principles is to continually remind human beings of the existence of the divine center or the divine creator, the ultimate origin of where we come from. So tradition does not refer to certain customs or habit or inherited ways of thinking and living. It has a divine foundation and involves the transmission of sacred message through the ages. Using this sense, tradition is a synonym with revelation and encompasses all forms of philosophy, art, cultures, and those that are influenced by it. Okay, so a lot of traditions have been created from a lot of prophets and stuff, or we could say the elders of the villages who received these messages from the divine, which gave us instruction on how we should live as a community for humanity. Okay. Now, for traditionalists, tradition has two fundamental aspects. namely exoteric and esoteric. Exoteric aspect is predominantly manifested in its rites, rituals, and laws. And it also comprises theologies or doctrines that give us tradition as uniqueness and particularity. The esoteric, or the inward dimension of tradition, on the other hand, encompasses not only its spiritual substance, but also its intellectual properties. So I think this is talking about how we practice tradition taught by others with our outside physicality, with doing rituals and stuff. But then when it comes to our personal spiritual growth and spiritual knowledge, we also have tradition within ourselves. And I think a lot of that comes from certain DNA, certain downloads that we get even personally. Because even nowadays, now at times, with a lot of us tapping into our higher selves and our spirituality, we are no longer needing certain prophets or messengers. We directly get messages and downloads from our ancestors, from the divine, to do certain things, which create traditions, because we know that once we start doing these, this become our spiritual habits, and this is what we teach our kids and our families down the line. So the word tradition is derived from the Latin term tradido, which means to hand over. So etymology, I can't even say that right. The term tradition refers to transmission of knowledge, practice, skills, laws, forms, and the variety of other oral written aspects. So tradition is pure and is divine, and it represents God's will. Similarly, tradition is a sacred concept within its origins of God. It's the way to communicate with God, who fully encompasses the universe in its constant presence, the very depth of all human beings. As a result, tradition is perfectly in harmony with the prophetic revelations, which represents the highest order of reality, capable of elevating man to the higher altitudes of personality. So we're seeing that tradition comes into play so we can appease God and please God. So we could keep these certain traditions so we know that we are vibrating at the highest vibration as a human being to be able to live a life according to the way that pleases God. That's why these traditions are here, because we kind of understand our purpose, knowing that we are created in the likeness of God, and the things that we need to do here in order to maintain a healthy spiritual lifestyle and a healthy relationship with God. All right. So traditionalist thinkers, they use the word to refer to the sacred as they refer to both the sacred as revealed to man through revelation and the unfolding development of sacred message and the history of particular humanity for which it's destined. So this speaks about how tradition changes because there's certain different times where people are living differently. So back in the day, people didn't have as much technology as we did. So tradition was different. And now, in a day where technology is abundant, a lot of people don't practice tradition because we're spoiled. You know, too many things are easily accessible to us. We are not feeling the need to tap in within or even with our elders because we think that the information that we need is easier accessible through Google or any .coms. Okay, so the work they think it's easy, but they haven't been trained through tradition on how to discern if this is truly aligns with your DNA, with your family's tradition and cultural beliefs. Okay. Let's see. Do I want to talk about that? I'll just go ahead and say it. So there are certain groups that believe that various traditions and religions are culturally all truths in one. They think that the unity of thought and action, which transcends through the arbitrary rule of culture and society, serves as a common denominator between men and leads them to the awareness of unity and supreme, indivisible. Okay. It flows from an absolute truth and has been expressed in diverse ways through the ages. And they believe that the existence of different religions is not evidence against these primordial traditions. So the assumption that all religions hold a fundamental truth contrarily is supported by such variation which one approaches religions from an esoteric viewpoint. And I think this is to say how some people go down the rabbit hole within their own spiritual journey, that they find truths in every religion. And I think that goes into like the Tower of Babylon on how one language is separated to many, which became a lot of traditions, a lot of cultures, a lot of religions. And that's what's all truths was spread apart. And I think when people go down the rabbit hole of finding oneself, they do practice different religions or study different religions because they pick out the truths that align with them on their path. Okay, so I think that's true because even in myself, that's how I went down the rabbit hole. I went down a lot of traditions and certain things made sense to me, and certain truths just aligned with certain things that were naturally embedded in me naturally. A lot of things that I do know, I did not read out of a book. No one taught me. It's already in me. So it kind of made sense when I was trying to understand. So like, why do I know that? How can I find something to align with this that in me with that I know is truth that hasn't been taught to me by my parents?
Yeah.
Especially coming from parents from two diverse backgrounds and two diverse countries. I was trying to make sense of things that was already embedded within me. So all traditions are earthly manifestations of celestial archetypes of primordial tradition. And the same way, all revelations are related to the Logos, which is the word, which has the beginning, which is at once the aspect of universal Logos and universal Logos as such. So each tradition is based on a direct message from heaven, and it cannot be seen simply as historical continuation of the primordial tradition. Its acceptance is not only implies that any of the revealed religions are devoid of divine origin, rather it is affirmed to the presence that is inextricably linked to the sacred. So we all know that a lot of these traditions or religions, it may not be true to other people, but when you go down to the source of it, they all got divine messages from source, from one God. Like what Ifa says, there is one single God. This is the same God. God has 72, even probably more names than we know, but everybody's getting this information from source and maybe translated in certain different ways and practicing differently through ritual, but everybody's getting these divine messages from the Most High. So primordial tradition is viewed as a block of principles which are often revitalized through revelation. Okay. Religions are united not just by a common source, but by all common substance by the primordial tradition. So no matter what, it may look different from what we do, but we're kind of doing the same thing, just in a different way. And it's funny how wars are created by the differences. But if you really look at it, we're doing the same damn thing. Okay. So let's talk about some synonyms of tradition. So some will say these are the same thing, same words. So synonyms of tradition are rule, principles, values, heritage, convention, custom, standards, and ethics. Ethics, we always hear that from corporate, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So why is tradition important? Traditions are important to our mental health because they provide a sense of stability and they help us connect with our roots. The word tradition comes from the Latin word tradare, which means to hand over or to transmit. It is a practice or ritual that is passed down from generation to generation. Tradition gives us a sense of stability and helps us connect with our ancestors, with our community. Now let's talk about the importance of rituals in our daily lives. Rituals which come from traditions. Rituals are a powerful tool for creating meaning in our daily lives. They have the power to shape our experiences and regulate our emotions. And other cultures, rituals are a fundamental part of what it means to be a person. Rituals can serve as a substitute for religion or spirituality in secular societies, just like Christian holidays with Easter and Christmas. They can also help us cope with death and loss through practices like grieving rituals, elevation rituals, which allows us to express grief and prepare ourselves before proceeding with life. And lastly, they can provide relief from anxiety and any other type of mental health issues that we may have, because they offer a sense of continuity and predictability in an often unpredictable world. Hence the need for protection rituals, abundant rituals, and cleansing rituals. Now, traditions provide a structure and comfort to a spirit-led life. So one of the most important aspects of life in our soul's journey is tradition. You form tradition based on who came before you and those around you. And they can differ based on one's childhood and cultural background. Now, there are many universal traditions that people share no matter what, just like New Year's Eve. It's a time for reflection and all that has happened to us during the year. It's also a time to set goals for the new year ahead. Now, no matter how or when you celebrate this new year, based on your cultural beliefs, the goal is still the same. It's a new year ritual that is done the same and for the same reasons. These traditions can provide structure for our lives and allow us to feel in alignment with the energies of Mother Earth and our celestial bodies. Now, traditions foster a sense of being. The practice of tradition is very popular and a key to our sense of belonging. Tradition helps us to feel like we belong in this world when we've come from somewhere else. It also helps us to fit in where we've always been in the same place, and it provides a sense of belonging for those who feel like an outsider. Traditions have been an important component of human societies since the dawn of time, since the beginning. They fulfill our four key criteria of achieving the four B's, which is being, belonging, believing, and benevolence. Traditions are a source of enjoyment and meaning, and they help us feel like we belong to our community, to a broader society. And they make you believe in something larger than yourself. They give us meaning. This is where that spiritual lifestyle comes into place, having purpose, having a reason. Traditions helps us believe in something coming, something belonging to us, our reason for living, not just going through the motions of life. Traditions connects a person to one's ancestors and our community. They're all about creating unity and gathering people together. Traditions provide us with a sense of comfort and oneness, bringing family and friends together during holidays and ceremonial life events. Now, some traditions may seem silly, like superstition. Traditions can be used to connect people in their history and family lineage, by providing them with the opportunity to indulge in some experiences like our ancestors did, reigniting a memory that is genetically stored in our DNA. Tradition becomes secondhand and a necessity to keep it going due to the fulfillment that it brings to oneself and the family legacy. Okay, so it's doesn't it feel good when you're with your family and you're doing certain things that you've done over and over? It creates that memory of, it's like a cozy type feeling, that love feeling that we could do this all together as one, as a family. But it becomes tradition down the line. We've done this for 100 years in our family, and this is what we keep on doing. Okay, it creates certain memories, and I think that this may be some of the reasons why some of our ancestors are unwilling to let go, because of certain traditions they are attached to that brings that oneness with each other, with our bloodline. So tradition allows you to know where you've come and where you're going. My mama used to say, if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. People all over the world celebrate in their own way. But what is most common are the celebrations that are traditional to our culture. Traditional celebrations are one of the most significant parts of human history, and they have been shown to reduce stress, increase mental well-being, and increase physical and spiritual health. Traditional celebrations helps people feel more connected to the community and to family. They help them find ways of coping in difficult situations by providing an outlet for people during tough times. They also help with a sense of belonging and acceptance with our soul tribe as we grow and embark on lessons of finding self. This is why they have the winter season as a depressing season, because that's when most of the holidays occur. And a lot of people are depressed during that season because some of them lack family. So they lack the tradition during that time. And it's very sad for them to cope and to deal with that. So that's why it's sad. A lot of people need to feel a sense of belonging. So this is why tradition and rituals is very, very imperative. So even though we can't keep up with certain family members doing our certain traditions and ritualistic rites, we find our soul tribe to do those certain things with. Okay. So I want you guys to think about today of your own spiritual lifestyle, your own spiritual practices, and what traditions you're creating and what traditions you are breaking within your own bloodline that you're teaching to your children and your future children. What are you doing in this lineage to create certain rituals that could be passed down the line for spiritual growth, for connectedness, and for spiritual health? Okay, but you guys to think about that. What are your lifestyles? What are you doing ritualistically? What are traditions that you're creating that's going to be passed down? Because in a way, that is a legacy. We think legacy could just be money, land, material value, but tradition in a way in itself is also legacy. Okay. All right, y'all. That's the quick lecture.
Beautiful job, Ian.
Thank you.
Yes.
You guys want to add some stuff?
Of course. I think uh, no, because it's really cool of what you just, because I feel like it's wrapped just around a lot of things that I talked about in terms of how spirituality shows up for me, or like how and what it looks like in my life, and also what is tradition. Just even now as Black Americans, like as a microscope, in a microscopic way, I think that we need to figure out what that is for us now, just in general. And I think that's part of our problem is that we aren't acknowledging how our culture has changed in a way to where a lot of what we used to practice isn't fitting now. And so we kind of have to reshape what tradition and culture looks like, with Black women leading and money. What does culture look like with, just as one example, but what is that? But I feel like for me, I've always kind of struggled with it for a simple fact of, like, I believe in tradition and culture, but I've never necessarily been somebody who believed in it being an outward appearance of my lifestyle. So like, I'm like now everybody's popularized the earthy Black girl aesthetic, everybody looking like Erykah Badu and this. And for me, it triggers me because sometimes I feel like everybody who I met that way was always like the biggest spiritual perpetrators. Like there was. So I feel like there's an energy that kind of goes with that certain aesthetic that I just don't align with. But I also know that people tend to be very visual when it comes to your beliefs. So I've always said to myself that I didn't want to wear my beliefs necessarily on my body, but I wanted to be my life. I wanted you to look at my life and to see that, the ancestors really fuck with her. That's how it is. So this is my tradition. Like, I feel like this is like me being able to be in a space where I can be raw in the energy and with Yorisha, like that's my tradition. And then, I am just a mere representation of that energy in today's society, in today's with that, how does Oshun show up in 2024 for real? How does Feda show up? How does Ogun show up, in this type of space? And and she doesn't just look like a poster child for a certain aesthetic of that person. So I am very thankful for you for creating a space like this, because this is what I feel like keeps me traditional. This is my spirituality, and everything else is just another aspect of what I'm kind of diving into. So hopefully what I get to pass down is the fact that you can have a relationship with God, a relationship with the Orisha, and it not completely take over your life.
Mhm.
And for it to not have to force things to be second in your life as well, because I feel like many ways I felt second to the church when it came to my parents. I felt second to a lot of those things.
Mhm.
And I feel like with IFA, even hoodoo and even voodoo, I was told that my family is important. Like if you're going to improve it, you keep your family intact. And so so that's what I want to break. Like religion does not come before family.
Mhm.
And we're going to stop that. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like religion has kept me from knowing people, knowing cousins, aunties, uncles, all those things. Like I'm going to weddings and like, I don't know nobody. I'm going to family reunion. I don't know nobody. And I'm glad I get to touch y'all. But like religion also kept me from those certain experiences, and I'm going to break that. So it's like, no, like it don't matter if you practice Islam, Judaism, African spirituality, Buddhism. If you my cousin, I'm gonna know you.
Yep.
If you my uncle, I'm gonna know you. Because like you said, you can find truth in everything.
Everything. 'Cause
So like we're not about to. So yeah, that's one thing we break in. We're not Religion will never keep us ever from being together.
Yep, I should. That's one thing about religion is even it's an aesthetic to religion as well. Just like the black girls that want to be Erykah Badu. How you look like on the outside because you want other people to judge you and assume that you live a certain lifestyle, assume that you are a certain type of Christian. So it's appeasing other people versus appeasing your ancestors or your immediate family. And I think that's one thing that, you know, people get misconstrued. But I want people to want to feel that oneness with God, oneness with tradition, like the ancestors did when they created hoodoo, how they secretly did things, how they secretly did rituals. They had to do it because they knew they needed to do it because of tradition. And how they creatively combine the saints. Oh yeah, there's truth in some of this Christianity, but let's combine it with what we know and give it this special type of magic and power. You know what I'm saying? I want that urge and that need for them to do that. Like we have to do this instead of, oh, I look like I do this, but you don't. You're wearing a leggings that's not even consecrated. You got it from a botanica that a person probably works with demons in there, but it hasn't been blessed or consecrated. But you got the leggings on. Then you get mad when the Royal Yanifa Babala wants to charge you extra for leggings because they know how to put the Orisha's Ashe into it. So it's just like people don't respect tradition and respect or even are educated on how certain things are really done, but they want to wear it to look like they got something, you know. So there's so many things to be said in these spiritual streets, but I think if one truly taps in and take accountability with the truth within themselves instead of Googling everything, I think it'll have a more sense of self-empowerment versus trying to, okay, this is what everybody else is doing, so this is what I need to do to be accepted. But then
Yeah.
when the person knows what they're talking about, what are you talking about? You don't know what I'm talking about because you're not really in. So I commend you for breaking out the gate, but still being true to what brought you up spiritually. Because Christianity did bring us up. That's how we were able to tap into our spiritual power, our spiritual gifts. That's where they began. You know what I'm saying? But it takes a certain bravery to break out with it because of the fear that has been instilled within Christianity.
Yeah.
That thing's a stronghold. They won't talk about stronghold. That's a stronghold. So I commend you for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be like that. I'm like, yep, I practice E5 and we still family. And
Mhm.
we still hanging out. And we're
Mhm.
still this. And I'm
Yeah.
still watching your kids. We're not doing that no more. We're gonna end that. We're ending that now.
It's the same
So,
thing. Like I was telling my mom, okay, you need to burn frankincense and myrrh because there's this spirit walking around in their house. It's the lady that used to own that land and she's mad. And my baby could see it, and the maids are singing because Philippines is a very spiritual atmosphere, like just how Mexico is. Philippines is the same way. It's very powerful source of spiritual atmospheres where there's some areas that's real malevolent. Okay. So I was telling her, burn this, burn that. What incense you got? And then daddy in the background are hustling. Daddies, that's what they do. Talk
mhm.
about, you just need some lemon and salt. I said, Daddy, what you talking about? I said, your baby was there too. What you talking about? Let me find out. I don't know. Shoot, I'm Christian. I said, okay, Daddy, we do that too.
Mhm.
But it made me think like, dang. And so I started searching in my head. Where in the Bible say that they use lemon and salt? What verse is that? So it just made me go in my brain, like, hold up. And things are they align, you know what I'm saying? That's why I wanted to talk about it. And God put it on my heart because I'm like, dang, what's my lecture gonna be? And God was like, tradition. Ifa's a tradition, Isese a tradition. Talk about that and how it affects all lifestyles and family. Talk about tradition and go. I'm like, okay. But then that reminds me right there in my own family. Yeah, my mother's Filipino. She's Catholic, grew up Catholic. My dad is Southern Baptist, all that. But they both have spiritual powers that are not associated with Christianity. And then my mom always taught me I was going to be a preacher, but I came out to be a high priestess. And my mom was like, it's the same thing. But my mom is more open to what I'm doing because of the spiritual atmosphere that's in the Philippines
Mhm.
versus my dad growing up in the South where they were slave and they were taught to be a Christian, period, point blank, because that's the slave master. You see what I'm saying? So I was always pulled like this, but now IFA made sense to everything. But I still teach you guys other stuff other than IFA because that's how I spiritually grew up. So it could be like, oh, it's too much. How that's like spiritual psychosis. It's not. If you're tapped in within yourself, you can see how everything aligns as one. And you
Yeah.
have discernment, you know how to knock, oh, that don't make sense. Let me knock that out. But it goes with this. Oh, that don't make sense. Let me knock that don't make sense. Or even though it don't make sense, it could make sense to you 10, 20 years down the line because you've been spiritually initiated so many times.
Yeah.
Oh, now you have the spiritual knowledge to understand. None of that makes sense. Let's go ahead and apply that. So it's so many layers to this, you
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? But now that we write things down and we are able to print things out, it'll make it easier to pass it down the line versus this is the way you do it with oral tradition because we say this is the way you do it. But where's the breakdown? Why? Not because I said so, because I'm the elder, but why? Make it make sense. Give
Mhm.
me your reason. What is your example? What did you learn from this? So I'm excited to see, especially with my own daughter. All right, my babies. I love you guys.
Love you guys
I
too.
love you too.
Talk to you later.
See ya.
Bye bye.
No carbon copy. Ain't even like that. Just trying to match my swag. 'Cause